Welcome back to the Lawn Hustle Podcast. I am your host, Andy Wilson, with 17 years of experience in the green industry. Today we have a special guest with us, Jason Creel, and I've been following him on social media for quite some time. He has 5,475 followers on Instagram. And I want to encourage my listeners now, go to Instagram, search him out, follow him. You will enjoy his content as much as I do. Jason, thank you for joining the Lawn Hustle.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate that. And I do more on YouTube probably than Instagram, but I do try to post content on both sites. But I appreciate the invite this morning and looking forward to talking with you.
Well, I have seen you and Paul Jameson on your content.
Yeah.
And when I first saw the one video, and then I think Paul explained to me what you were doing, where you were blowing grass and people were thinking, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing, but you were doing it intentional.
Well, Paul used to live in Atlanta. I live near Birmingham. It's not too far away. He would come over and we would make content. He would film me doing stuff that was incorrect. I don't do that a whole lot anymore, but yeah, some of those, I guess millions of people watched it and they told me to keep spraying yards and get off the lawnmower.
Well, I enjoy your content. I appreciate it. Let me ask you, what inspired you to get into the lawn care business?
That's a good question. I think I just, maybe we started around the same time. I just finished my 18th year. And I tell people I had probably 15 jobs before that. I don't think that's an exaggeration. All bad, basically. I do have a college degree and, I could have did something else. At some point in my life, I figured out I've always, I guess, been a hard worker, but I was not necessarily a great employee. Not that I would show up and do what I was told to do. I just, again, never had a good job. At some point, I guess I had figured out I had an entrepreneurial spirit. I was like, I could do this on my own. Why am I working for these people? But I didn't have a lot of great ideas. I wanted to do something that I guess you would describe as bigger than myself. I'd considered joining the military. I considered being a missionary. I considered starting a business. And so I ended up starting a business and didn't know what to do. And so I started mowing grass. It kind of had some minor successes early on that compared to my pathetic jobs I had seemed like, so I became quickly hooked on it.
Well, how has your business evolved over the years? 18 years in the business, from the time you started to where you are today. How have you gotten to where you are?
Yeah, and I don't want to deceive people to think that I've grown some big multi-million-dollar empire, because that's certainly not true. My company is called Alabama Lawn Pros. I work by myself, and that's by decision. I've had employees. So, I used to mow grass. I lived in Montgomery, Alabama, and was mowing grass. And over time, I was approached by somebody who bought that business. I wasn't necessarily looking to sell it, but I was made an offer, and so I sold that business. And I kept a small portion and kept mowing grass. But 2 years later, we decided to relocate our family 2 hours north, or roughly 2 hours north. So I sold the remaining portion of my business, and I decided to get into the weed control side of the business. And I guess that was 11 or 12 years ago, and have really enjoyed that. So as far as the evolution, I mean, it was more of relocating and then deciding I want to do weed control. And I was mowing grass when I started that as well. But I eventually decided, I'm going to go the weed control route. I wasn't sure if I wanted to grow and have multiple trucks. But I did have 2 trucks at one time, but I just became comfortable for a couple of reasons, saying, you know what, I think I'm going to do it myself. Some of that has to do with having a social media side to what I do. I may do it different if I didn't have that. And then some of it just became who I was. Some people are wired differently, and some can handle the chaos of employees and all that. And I'm not as good at that. So that's why I shrunk it back down and work by myself.
Well, success is not determined by how many crews you have. Success is determined by your individual goals, your individual desires and dreams. And if you are reaching those goals and those dreams are becoming reality, then you're being successful. So it's not determined by crew numbers and how many trucks you have, because some guys choose to be solo operators. And I think that's what you have chosen. So I appreciate you being on my show. But let me ask you this. What keeps you passionate? You and I both know that burnout is real. We all go through those struggles when we're tempted to throw in the towel, go get a job, and work for somebody else. But what keeps Jason passionate about his business, about the green industry, and what keeps him motivated to keep going day after day?
That's a good question, and I've given that some thought because I do think. Well, I'll say this: just finishing my 18th year, I think I'm far more excited about year 19 than I probably was year 3. So my burnout came early on, and thinking I don't know if this is going to work. Because not having a good idea of how to scale and how to manage employees and what my true overhead costs were and stuff. It seemed like I was working harder and not making any more money. As I began to learn myself, and of course, obviously got more experience in the business, I'm able to manage it in a way that also helps me achieve other life goals. To me, that's the I don't. This is just my answer. It doesn't mean it's true for everybody else, but for me, if I grew a $10 million a year landscaping company or whatever, which is an admirable goal, but to neglected other things in my life, primarily my family, then that would not be success in my eyes. So I've tweaked it to where monetarily, I definitely try to make money and want to make more than I did last year and have goals, financial goals. But I'm also have 4 kids and a wife, and we're active in our church, and there's other things going on. I have aging parents and a lot of things I want to accomplish other than lawn care. So I think when I look at the lawn business, I'm like, I personally wouldn't trade jobs with almost anybody. Like I love what I do. I love doing lawn care more than I do being on YouTube. And to be honest with you, because it's not that stressful to me. I'm out there literally spraying water on people's yard with some herbicide mixed in. And I'm able to listen to stuff, like I listen to podcasts or audiobooks while I'm doing it. So I'm saying I'm challenging myself mentally. I'm staying active physically. It gives me a flexible schedule, which allows me to be a dad and a husband. And it pays pretty well. I wouldn't trade that for an office job that, even if it paid more, which I don't think it would. It's not a hard decision for me. So I think having those terrible jobs early on maybe helped me out to appreciate where I'm at today.
Well, I hope our listeners heard what you were saying. You don't want to get so busy building a business that you fail in building a life.
That's a more succinct way to say what I just said. So yeah, I appreciate that summary.
But I was at that point where when I started, I was growing so fast and was so busy that I was missing birthday parties, missing family retreats and get-togethers. And my wife would come home and I would ask her who was there, and she would go down the list and she would say, this one asked where you were and this one asked what you were doing. And I realized that I was missing out on what I was trying to build a business for. I was missing out on my family. So I cut back and I said, listen, family is number one. Well, my relationship with God is number one. Family is number two. Professional lawn maintenance is number three. And that's the order that it has to be because I don't want to try to build something and lose everything. So, how have you seen the lawn care industry in your years in the business? How have you seen it change over the years?
Well, again, when I started, I just went out there and started working. I don't know that I had a great plan. What I've realized today, and as I switched to weed control and fertilization, I was like, well, this is so much better. Like, why would I mow grass? Now I see people that are mowing grass actually being fairly successful. So I would say one way it's changed is, some people say, well, the prices are about the same as they were 20 years ago. So, yeah, I don't believe that. I have friends, I can't believe what they charge for the mowing the grass and seem to get plenty of work to be able to do that. And of course, landscaping is expensive too. So they're able to put together a plan that I wasn't able to do on that side of the business. I think, it's a legit, I don't know, the demand is there. People aren't the clientele, they're not exactly shifting more towards do it yourself. They're probably shifting even more toward pay somebody to do all these services for me. So I think there's huge demand, and I think it's become actually more respected. It's like it used to be like, well, you just cutting grass because you couldn't cut it with a real job or something. I felt like, well, maybe it was my own insecurities, but now I feel like, if somebody, I know some young people that are doing quite well in their 20s doing landscaping and mowing, and we don't look down on them. We actually probably say, wow, that was a good decision. You're doing a lot better off than a lot of your people you probably graduated high school with that took a different path. You're way further along than they are as far as career wise. So I don't know. More respected, I guess, would be one thing. And maybe one other thing quickly was just how we get customers and things. Of course, has changed. I used to walk around put door hangers outside, which can still work, but so much of it now is online, and your reputation online, Google reviews, and your website rank, all these things that nobody cared about. Used to, it was literally you name your business like AA lawn care, AAA, so that you would show up first in the white pages, or yellow pages, probably. I don't think that has almost no relevance anymore today.
Well, let's take a short break and hear a word from my show sponsor.
Tired of chasing payments and losing track of jobs? EarthaPro back office software makes it simple for solo guys and small lawn care and landscaping crews. Schedule, invoice, and organize all in the same place. We also have a mobile app and integrate into QuickBooks. Sign up at earthapro.com with promo code TheLawnHustle11 for a $50 Amazon gift card, 10% off, and personalized onboarding. EarthaPro, you run the outside work, we run the office.
And we're back with Jason Creel. We're so happy that he is a guest on the show today. Let me ask you, what trends are you seeing in the green industry right now that is changing the trajectory of our business?
I think I've become aware of a couple of things. Of course, if you go to like trade shows and stuff, you'll see all the autonomous equipment and certainly a big push in battery equipment. And for years, I guess since COVID became more evident with like labor issues, being a challenge. So I don't know. I don't know that it's fully hit where I'm at yet, but I think where at least the wheels are turning on how can we shift to be more, less labor dependent and more, battery equipment, save on gas. And so I picked up on that this year when I met a friend of mine that he has we were at dinner with a group of lawn care people, and this guy probably had the biggest business of all of us. Does lots of schools and lots of big properties and big crews and trucks all driving all over the place. And he told me that he runs all battery powered handheld equipment. Now his mowers are still gas, and I think his blowers are gas. But as far as trimmers and I think hedge trimmers and all that stuff, string trimmers and edgers, he's using Makita battery powered equipment. And I thought, wow, I mean, because it wasn't just like a little small timer. This and it wasn't in California where he may have been forced his hand. This is in Alabama, slow adopters to the trend. So I think those are a couple things that are changing the industry a little bit.
This last year at Equip Expo, I connected with a brand, and I have become an ambassador for them. And they have sent me some battery-powered trimmers, hedge trimmers, blowers. And I'm really impressed with the power that they have. I wish the batteries would last longer, though. That's my only issue with them is the batteries just don't last.
Yeah, there's a friend of mine, he'd done a lot of research in that field, and he and this has been my experience. I have a lot of Milwaukee equipment that they send me, and I love a lot of the equipment. The blowers are the one and what my friend researched a lot. He said, it's the blowers use so much energy that it's hard from a cost standpoint, to put the size battery on there that you need is going to be very expensive to give you the equivalent energy that you would get from a gas blower. Now on trimmers, hedge trimmers, string trimmers, things, it's a lot easier to do. But to your point, maybe I've seen a great improvement even over the years to where like I have a battery backpack blower and string trimmers and all, and I go grab those. I even chainsaw. I have a gas chainsaw, battery chainsaw. I almost always grab the battery one today. So just my personal preference.
Well, you're right. The batteries on the blowers, I burn through them so quick.
Yes.
But if I'm doing a hedge job and trimming a few bushes, that hedge trimmer will last all day. And I haven't come across anything that Cenex 60-volt hedge trimmer will not cut through. It's a great piece of equipment.
Yep.
Well, is there any misconceptions about the lawn care industry that you would like to clear up? We're not all chucking the trucks or anything that you want to clear up.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe to my earlier point, I think it's a very respectable industry nowadays. Like I said, I used to probably be a little bit embarrassed, feel like, I graduated. I was not saying this in a too arrogant way, but I was valedictorian in my high school, and I graduated with honors in college. I felt like sometimes my family thought, well, surely he's going to accomplish more than like doing lawn care. I mean, can he? And maybe I should have. I don't know, but to me, it's more of just a fit personality wise, what I enjoy. I just want to be out there doing something. So I think the misconception being that, it's kind of a low end job. You're just the grass cutter guy that is working for them. To me, I don't tell the customers this, but in my mind, and I hope that, again, not saying this too arrogantly, but I think they need me more than I need them. Like I have a service to offer you and a skill set, and you can fire me if you want to, but I can go get more customers. Like, so, it's not like, hey, that's my guy who comes over and does my yard because I'm the big shot. He's down here working for me. I'm like, well, whatever. I don't care what job you have. I take it serious. I take a lot of pride in my work. And it's just a respectable thing. And I wouldn't, if my son said, I want to get into lawn care and not go to college or go to college and then start lawn care. Yeah, I said, hey, that sounds like a great decision to me. I think it's, again, if you're cut out for it, it's certainly not for everybody.
Well, guys like you, Mike Andes was in college to be a brain surgeon.
Yes, I've heard that story.
200 locations now of Augusta Lawn Care. We had him on the show, and he talked about his journey and how he got started. And I think guys like you, like him, like Paul Jameson, Naylor Taliaferro, these guys bring, in my view, authenticity to our industry. And our industry is just full of great guys that are passionate about their business, passionate about serving their community, and they're making a change. I believe our industry is going through a paradigm shift where we're changing from those misconceptions,
Yeah.
and people are now wanting to get into the lawn care business as a first option, not a second option.
Yeah. That's a
So,
good way to say it. I think some of the people you mentioned, I don't know Mike as well. I know Naylor and Paul and others. And what I think you get with the lawn care people, not always, not everybody fits in a box, but you get somebody that's not afraid to work and has that little blue collar side to them that's not afraid to get dirty and work. And I think with that comes a little bit of character development and humility about, those people have different levels of success. Obviously, Mike's done great for himself, but you sit down and talk to them, and they're not, in my experience, not full of themselves, and you can have conversation with them and treat them like a real person. And so, I think you get a lot of that with lawn care people. They're not all of them are clones, but just great. I mean, I just love being around. When I'm around a lot of people, it doesn't seem like no matter where they're from. Of course, we have something in common, but it's just a good conversation with somebody I feel like is sort of a friend that I never met.
well, that's what I enjoy going to Equip. I went to Naylor's event the 2 days prior to event, the LCR Summit. And the reason why I love going to these events, because when I find people in the industry that are successful and I can rub shoulders with them, success breeds success. And I think you become who you hang around with. If you choose to hang around with the losers in our industry, then you're probably going to end up being a loser.
Yeah.
But I care too much about my business. I've worked too hard to establish my business to let someone else destroy it. So I hang around with guys that are going to build me up. Let me ask you, who is your mentor?
Well, I mean, I have a friend named James who's taught me from the weed control and fertilization side. We knew each other before I started doing weed control, and through different circumstances, he managed a large weed control and fertilization company while I was mowing grass. And he's old enough to be my dad, But anyway, over his company sold out, and he went to work for Harold's, who I now buy my fertilizer and things from. And I moved. I sort of lost touch with him for a couple of years. I don't know if I knew what he was doing, but I contacted him. I said, "Hey, James, I'm thinking about getting into weed control and fertilization. I had a little bit of experience on the mowing side." He says, "Well, I'm now working for Harold's and I'm selling stuff now." He would have helped me anyway, but we were friends, and he helps people that that barely knows. But anyway, he really took me under his wing at a critical time, and he had over 30 years experience. So he was just unbelievable. And today I still speak with him, I would say at least weekly, and just, I guess there's no substitute for experience. I mean, I've got my own experience now, but his experience on the turf side, yes, but also just business, practical sense, talking with customers. I mean, there's no complaint that he hadn't heard just about it, how to deal with it. I was giving one tidbit. He told me early on, he said, you get somebody complain, and in weed control, you probably get more complaints than mowing. He said, when you get somebody complaining and they have a problem, they're like, "Oh, what happened here and this, and I'm paying you, and it looked better before you started." All that, he said, you want to quickly. Now, it could be 100% their fault. They ain't watered in a year, and they did all mowed it, scalped it, or whatever. But they don't want you getting in an argument with them. So he said, just as quickly as you can, shift the conversation from the problem to the solution, and just remembering that and say, well, I understand you're frustrated about your yard, and say, well, the reason this looks terrible is because you're a terrible homeowner. That's not going to get you anywhere. But I can quickly start saying, well, I tell you what, let's try this. Why don't you give me 3 weeks? I'm going to put a heavy application of fertilizer down, and I want you to, if you would, commit to watering this grass, a deep soaking twice a week, and let's check back in 3 weeks and see how it's looking. And so that shifts it from, well, I want you to resod the yard, you mess my, to now 3 weeks later, it's Bermuda grass done grow back and it's green. Stuff like that he taught me has helped a lot, along with actually how to take care of turf and stuff of that nature.
Well, that is so good, shifting from the problem to the solution.
Correct.
I'm going to remember that and encourage my listeners to practice that, because there's nothing I hate worse than client business tension or feeling like they're not happy. There's too many businesses in my town that they can very quickly drop me and move on to the next guy. So if I change my attitude, my mindset, the way I think about the problem, and focus on the solution, that's going to bring calm to it. So I appreciate that. That is so good. Can you give our listeners 1, 2, or 3 lawn care tips that will help create a beautiful property?
I can certainly try. I mean, I want to, maybe a misconception about that is it is somewhat of a partnership. Like, I'm doing weed control and fertilization. And so the yards that look the best typically have a homeowner that also cares a little bit. So if the homeowner is not willing to ever water, no matter how dry and hot it gets, or they're not going to mow the grass but once every 3 weeks because they just don't like it. There's only so much you can do from a chemical standpoint, and fertilizer. So I think understanding that you certainly play a role in it. I mean, and to that point, like the frequent mowing, I know it sounds, I'm not saying the guy that's out there, real mowing every day or every other day. You ain't got to be that guy. But weekly mowing compared to bi-weekly does make a huge difference. And I'm dealing with Bermuda lawns primarily, some zoysia. I think, it is a combination of turf health and the weed control side. So it's somewhat of a misconception. I think sometimes the customers want to know, why do I have weeds ever? Can't you just spray more pre-emergent, more post-emergent, just spray. We understand that the actual turf, it will tolerate the herbicide. It doesn't mean it likes the herbicide. It tolerates it. That what you're spraying, as it was explained to me recently, is trying to kill a plant. Now the grass, it won't kill it, but he ain't exactly happy about having 2,4-D sprayed on it or whatever the product is of that particular time. So there has to be an emphasis on quality, nutrition to help balance that, and have it, as James had taught me, at some point you got to let the grass grow. You can't just continue hammering it with pre-emerge all the time and never give it a chance to grow. So participating, cooperating with your guy. We tell people water once a week deeply. Again, I'm in the South. If it got super crazy hot, dry, go. So not watering 5 times a week for 10 minutes, but figure out how much you want to run your sprinkler. Let's say it's 30 minutes a week. Just soak it real good, 30 minutes once a week, early in the morning, and that will definitely help with weeds and fungus. The mowing frequency has a role, and ultimately you do need a guy or a person that takes care of the turf management, whether you do it yourself or you hire somebody like me. The quality products do make a significant difference, and not all fertilizers created the same. You go buy, I buy a $40, $50 bag, you buy a $20 bag and say, well, they both got 3 numbers on the bag. Let's throw it out there and see what happens. They're not created equal. So quality products ultimately saves you time and money, in my opinion. You got to pay a little bit more, but I don't get the callbacks. I got happy customers. They don't fire me. They recommend me to their neighbors. That's getting a little bit on the business side, but maybe that's helpful.
Well, let's talk about the business side for just a second here. If someone in your town came to you and said, Jason, I've seen your work. I know the quality of work you do. I'm wanting to start a lawn care service business. What should I do? What advice would you give them?
Now, do you mean start like a weed control like me, or mowing, or either one?
Weed control, mowing, either
Yeah.
one.
Well, if they were in my town, I mean, I wouldn't probably be thrilled about it because, I was like, well, I mean, I help people sometimes, but I don't necessarily want to raise up a direct competitor if I can help it. But let's just say I'm helping somebody 30 minutes away that we're going to be in separate communities. Um, I think you it's very challenging in weed control to figure it out on your own. Just to be honest with you, I'm not saying, yeah, I sell courses, I whatever. You buy my stuff if you want, but you need somebody to teach you what to do, and it's hard to find information on the internet. I do think it's one advantage. I'm one of the few people on the internet that teaches people how to do that, but um, you can come up with a program, whether you work with a supplier and they put together a program, you talk to somebody like me, and it's like, here's the program. So figuring out what to spray and when and what fertilizer to use and when to do it. And I look at it as sort of immersing yourself in a foreign culture, trying to learn the language. If you and I start tomorrow doing Rosetta Stone to learn Spanish, we might make it a little ways. But if we moved to Mexico for a year and refused to speak English, we'd probably get pretty good a lot faster. So once you get out there, you got somebody you're reading the sheet, says I'm supposed to spray, this and at this rate and this at this rate. And, just do it. Find somebody that knows what they're doing. Do what they tell you to do. But as you do it, it's basically science. I mean, if in a basic form, science is making observations. What I just did this, what worked, what didn't work. So I sprayed the yard. I did exactly what Jason told me to do, but this weed didn't die. How come this weed? And so I have these guys in a mentoring group. They text me a picture. Hey, what's this weed? It didn't die. I said, oh, that's that weed. You got to use this other product on that weed. So I keep it in a little 2-gallon sprayer on my truck. The cheap product will kill almost all the weed. So anyway, find somebody that tells you what to do what they say, and then pay attention to what's working, what's not working, and ask questions. Why didn't that work? To me, that would be like immersing yourself in the culture, and you're able to learn as quickly as possible.
Well, is there a book, a movie, or a person that has had the biggest impact on you as far as running and operating a business?
Well, people use this book sometimes, and I say I really love the book. I didn't listen to it, but you've may have heard of Michael Gerber's The E Myth Revisited. I think it's a great book. It's about some lady that baked pies with her aunt or something, and she said, "Oh, I'll open a pie baking business." Well, then she got just totally overwhelmed with that. Realized she's at the baking, getting there at 2 a.m, staying at 10 o'clock at night baking. She hated running the business, but she liked baking pies. And this whole concept was people heard for, but you kind of working on your business, not in your business. Again, I didn't follow that advice, but I do think it's good advice, especially if you're trying to grow a business bigger than a solo operation. That's one that sticks in my mind. Other than that, again, my friend James has impacted me a lot. And I think, to your point, it's like the idea of joining a gym for working out or something. It's a little bit contagious. So when you're saying I went to Naylor's event, I got around these people, and it's kind of like makes you a little bit more excited about going back and doing lawn care.
Yes,
Where if you're just out there on an island doing it by yourself, it can get a little frustrating. So I say, yeah, James, of course, has been a mentor to me, but I've also had opportunity to be around a lot of people, and not all of them doing weed control, that I gain a lot of encouragement just observing them, seeing what works. And I think just practical tip. I mean, we're just very transparent about it. Like I want my friends to be successful, and I tell them what I'm doing. Like, what, I don't care. I mean, what I got to care. Some people get so hung up that they got the formula, and I'm not going to give any tips to anybody. I don't operate that way personally.
Well, do you have a favorite quote or saying that you live by?
I doubt it. Yeah, I am Christian, so I'm shaped heavily by the Bible, and take that pretty seriously as far as studying that. So I mean, I don't know about a direct quote, but to go back to my earlier point, I don't want to grow a huge business into the neglect of other things. So again, without a quote, well, I'll quote Jesus, I guess. Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness. All these things will be added to you. Like I can sit around worrying about it. Am I saving enough in my IRA? Am my kids gonna have enough for college? Am I gonna have to spray yards when I'm 70 years old because I didn't put enough? What? Yeah. But ultimately, like if I'm seeking first these other, I am convinced that those things ultimately did not lead to any kind of real satisfaction in life. And as I even talked about why I went in the lawn business, well, I wanted to do something bigger than myself. Not that I've been here. I am running a solo lawn business, so maybe I didn't accomplish that. But the point is, I don't think building my own personal Jason Creel kingdom is exactly gonna do it for me. I would lay down very unfulfilled. So I want to say, even when I'm doing lawn care, it's more to me than just spraying a yard and getting rid of the weeds. Yeah, there's a purpose behind it that's bigger than myself.
That is so good. One thing I've noticed in the last few years is people are more open to talk about their faith. And I've seen that kind of a change in the industry. You have expressed your faith and talked about your church. Paul Jameson always talks about his faith, his church, wrote his newest book on Level Up Your Money, Biblical Principles to Financial Success. And people are willing to share their faith. And I appreciate that about our industry. I think we're almost to the point where there's more professionals than there are Chucks in the trucks or Dan in the van.
Yeah.
Our industry's changing. And one thing's for sure, whether it's changing, I want to change with it. I want to be able to express my faith in God and talk about my relationship with Jesus Christ. I want to be able to change with the industry when it shifts from gas to battery powered. Because one thing is for sure, if you are not willing to change with the industry, you will get ran over by the industry.
Yeah.
And I want to change with it, not be against all the changes.
Yeah. I think to your point, if I could say something about your point about talking about the faith, and stuff, I think whether it's politics or, well, I'm hoping it's a little bit of a pushback to what we get so often, which is just the social media keyboard warriors or whatever. Let's just get on there and blast everybody who disagrees with us, which is so stupid. I would much rather, if you told me that you're an atheist who hates all the things that I stand for or whatever. Yeah, then I said, well, that's fine. I would love to talk to you about that, and have a conversation. I think both sides would come out respecting the other person a lot more so I hope that there's a little bit of that, like, hey, I'm so tired of this bunch of internet stuff where we just blast everybody and divisiveness that's caused in our country over a number of issues. And I mean, I feel like I could go to talk to somebody who had a complete different worldview, have a conversation with. We probably would neither one convince each other of the other's position, but that would be certainly much more productive than getting on the internet and making a bunch of stupid comments.
I agree 100%. That is so good. Well, is there anything that we're leaving out that you would like to share with our listeners?
Not particularly. I guess what I've said from my own standpoint is, if you're in the lawn business and maybe you're a little burnt out or maybe you're getting started, I think it's very important not to compare yourself with everybody else. It doesn't mean you can't learn from that person. But yeah, I mean, if you and I sit on here and we and we got Mike Andes on here, and I started comparing my level of success to Mike Andes. Well, eventually I guess I just go crawl into bed again and go back to sleep. This is not going well. And there's a tendency where I can certainly learn from him, but I understand that we're two different people. He's got a certain gift set and knowledge and a mind that allows him to do what he does. I have a different set of skills that allow me to be successful in a different way. Our bank accounts certainly look different, but that's okay. And don't worry about that. Again, I'm not making an excuse for you to go out there and just be pathetic and go bankrupt in 3 years. But I'm saying, don't think that so-and-so's killing it and just crushing everything. We don't know everything about the story behind them. They may appear more successful than they are in reality. I'm not suggesting that by Mike by any means. But don't get so caught up in comparing yourself with other people. And I do think if I could go back and talk to my younger self, if I could have saved more money early on, I wouldn't have to be quite so aggressive in my savings plan today. As not old, but had to ramp up the aggressiveness to have an exit strategy one day because I didn't do so well when I was younger.
Well, the Bible says we're not wise if we compare ourselves among ourselves. I look at your success. I might not be to your level of success, but there's someone out there that might not be to my level of success, but we're a community and we can all learn from each other. And like going to those events, Nailers and Equip, when I walk in that massive showroom floor at Equip Expo, it's bigger than professional lawn maintenance. It's not just me. And I realize I'm not in this all by myself. There's people that I went to Equip to meet. I wanted to meet them. I wanted to shake their hand. But then there are those who stopped me, and I'm nobody. But they stopped me and said, I've been listening to your podcast, or I watch your content on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or Facebook. So even though we're not all on the same level, we're all in the same community. So that's what I appreciate about the green industry. It is a community. Today, before we went live, I got on your website and started looking at some of the content that you offer for sale. Would you like to talk about that for a minute and let our people know what you have to offer?
Yeah, that's fine. And I spend a decent amount of time talking people out of buying it as much as I do talking people into buying it. And all I mean by that is, I deal with warm season grasses, and I teach people who are they're mowing grass and they want to get into weed control, or I have some people that are like in a second career. One guy's a retired fireman. One guy's just retired as a school teacher. They want to get into weed control. So that's primarily what I try to help people with. If you want to get in weed control and you don't know where to start, I've done everything from currently in a 1-year mentoring program with a group of people. I have a video course. It's lawncarelife.com. I give people the option to come ride with me for the day. They can do a 1-hour coach, things like that. But it primarily, hey, I want to get in weed control, Jason. I'm ready to do that, and I don't know how to get started. Can you help me? It's not, last year my business did 5.2 million. This year, can you help me get to 7.8 million next year? You're like, no, I can't. But if you want to get going in something, you need somebody to hold your hand and get you started. And I hope you make millions later on, but that's what I offer.
Well, I think that brings us to a conclusion on the show. And I appreciate all the information you shared with our listeners. And I'm sure they found a value in what you had to say. And until we talk again, God bless you. And I wish you nothing but success. And we'll talk again real soon.
All right. I enjoyed it, Andy. Thanks a lot for having me.